Hey everybody, this is Craig from the University of Applied Research and Development, and it's our privilege to have with us Mišo Kenjić, who has a large experience in emergency response and disaster response. So just delighted to have you with us, Mišo.
Thank you for the invite. I'm glad to be with you.
I think it's great that you're here because we love to have people who have large international experience and have done a range of different things in different organizations, just so that our future students and our current students and emergency managers can understand how big of an opportunity it is to travel the world and to make a meaningful difference. So why don't you tell us, Mišo, about some of the things you've done in your career thus far?
Well, thank you again for the inviting me, and I would like to greet all of the audience as well. So, what I can say about myself, I'm Mišo Kenjić, and I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I believe I gained some of the experience in the crisis, working on several crises and emergencies over. Uh, 16 to 17 years. I was working in some ways and was linked to these emergencies as well. So since my early childhood, I was really interested in this, like
Wow.
crisis management and then how to solve some of the issues in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because like when I was 9 years old, if some of your audience maybe remember, we had a war in Bosnia and Herzegovina that lasted for 4 years,
Mm.
and this war really created and left devastating consequences for many families, including mine, and such a destructive disaster. Brought so many underlying issues and as well cascading disasters. We can look at
Right.
it as uh, displacement of people, huge migrations, and at the same time you're having a lack of medicine, water, food, and
Mm.
other basic needs. A lot of people with just basic needs for have normal life conditions, and all of this of course created huge disasters, and all of these problems in some sense like shaped my future career goals, and I was truly committed on working on mitigating, preparing, responding, and recovering for any kind of human made or other disasters.
Mm.
And regarding my work, I was involved in work of many and several UN agencies such as UNICEF, UNDP, UNV, and most recent Save the Children, where I was working as a emergency supply chain coordinator on several projects, over 13 projects at Save the Children International in Northwest Balkans.
Michelle, I wanted to ask you come from a background of being a young person in a disaster area during a war, during a crisis. How do you think that has formed the way that you think and the way that you think that might be different to other people like myself? Have never been through a disaster in my home country, and my perspective might be different.
Uh, I mean, uh, to grow up in the surrounding, such as destructive surrounding, where you, of course, can have impact on people, but I believe, at least based on my experience, that human beings are having such a fascinating ability to overcome hardship caused by disasters. And we also have such a unique capability to learn from them. Also, with the disasters on the rise due to climate change or through like some as well, which is impacted by human behavior on the planet,
Mm.
our ability to learn from those lessons from previous disasters and experiences going through them is as well most important than ever. So, of course, it
Yeah.
was difficult to go through those experiences, but there lays an opportunity uh, to get back stronger and get to provide and share your knowledge in order maybe for the new generations to prevent such a crisis.
You just mentioned that seeing a difficulty as providing an opportunity, and I had the privilege of speaking to someone earlier today who mentioned the same thing in his crisis response and recovery professional career. For you, why don't you share with us some of the experiences where you actually have responded to a disaster and some of the things that you've learned along the way?
Well, like I mentioned several UN agencies that save the children where I was working. Some of the crises I was working on is like we had devastating floods 2014 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Bosnia and Herzegovina is relatively small country, developing country with just something near 3.5 million citizens regarding the last census we had several years ago. And 2014 we had affected 610,000 people out of 3.5 million, which was like pretty insane. Many people nowadays are mentioning that those are kind of floods are natural disasters. Like even recent in Midwest area in America, we had like devastating tornadoes, and all of the people and like international community and people that are in this area are speaking about the term of natural disaster. I believe that this is incorrect and misleading. I have to mention that I was truly happy to be on the program of Northumbria University on disaster management and sustainable development, and to be lectured by one of the professors, Phil O'Keefe. Unfortunately, he passed away recently, but he left us some knowledge to question and to have a critical thinking about something that I would like as well to share now regarding the term of natural disaster. So why, if we really recognize and accept the standard definition of disaster as a serious disruption of functionality of the society at any scale due to hazardous events, interacting with conditions of exposure, vulnerability, and capacity, we must consider human involvement at the core of the event. So hazard will only become a disaster should it impact the workings of the society or the community. Disaster can only happen, of course, where disaster exists, and usually they are often positioned there, often historic and often made by elites and people and elites in position of power, economic planning, and other socioeconomic decisions that will alter their vulnerability to the hazard and climate change, how the hazard impact them. So I believe, therefore, that disaster that the disaster is natural is wrong. Like maybe that's even worse. It can mislead people to think that devastating results are inevitable, out of control, and they are simply part of natural processes. There are many terminology that we are using at the moment that are, I believe, as well incorrect. Like, for example, even man-made disaster. Like it's human-made disaster. So, like regarding the natural, like we have to take the naturalness out of the disaster. Like there are some article from my distinguished professor Phil O'Keefe done way long ago, like in end of 70s, where he mentioned even in Guatemala earthquake that affected 1976, and that because there was like also inequality and like some peasants in Guatemala didn't call it earthquake, they call it classquake, because the rich people were fine, they had good accommodation, resilient, but the poor didn't. So in this aspect, you could call it maybe social, economic disaster, or even political disaster, because everything comes back, everything is related to the politic. Everything and what's going on in the world, and how we are structuring our society is a political, and always will be a political question. So I'm sorry, maybe I went too wide, but you can maybe ask me again about the same question if I didn't answer it well.
Yeah, maybe some specific examples of responses that you've been involved in, particular responses and things that you've learned from that experience. Because I'm particularly mindful that aspiring emergency managers, people who may wish to do what you do, what do they need to learn? What do they need to build into their experience to be successful?
Maybe for new students, we are having a lot of people who would that are going into this with good cause, that they want to change the world, that they want to tackle really some really important things as climate change, like disasters, to provide their contribution, and that's really great. But something I was learning on my university, it helped me to be maybe more critical about some of the literature that we have at the moment, and provided me with tools how to find some truth related, like where to find peer-reviewed articles, where to find many sources to find about, to create the truth, your own true and evidence-based research. But when you come to on the field, you're gonna realize that it's nothing is so easy, like that you have to form and work as a team member, because you depend on the team, you depend on the people on the field, you depend, because like in the field you're gonna have like stressful environment, working long hours, having diverse team that sometimes has to improve certain functionalities of the working in the pretty stress environment.
Yeah.
I can mention, for example, recent COVID-19 response while I was working for Save the Children International in Northwest Balkans. I mean, everyone is aware that first of all, it was when COVID pandemic started, it was such impact on everyone. It was such a shock. On the local level, from the people, government, and globally, all countries were in the same problem. The markets were closed, and sourcing of goods and services were difficult, and in that order it was hard to have business continuity. At the same time, Save the Children was working on improving education, as education is one of the fundamentals of economic growth. And of course, absolutely was important for the case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, as the country just still in post-war period, rebuilding and building back better out of and solving all these consequences left of the war. So, and at the same time, we had the migrant crisis in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where you have like thousands and thousands of people crossing Bosnia and need basic necessities. So I mentioned at the beginning, it was really difficult because many of the countries imposed a ban and restrictions, and that as well had really big consequences on the supply chain. To have business continuity and to work on all these projects that I have mentioned, we needed to supply basic foods for the migrants. We had two basic necessities for our business continuity in the office and in the field to cover logistics, and as well. Then with COVID-19, you know that there were like really huge shortages of PPE equipment, and but then you are having a real issue where you have to continue work, you have to provide and help vulnerable families, vulnerable people in the field. So how we for us it was helpful because we were preparing really well through different kind of scenarios. What could happen if we already had some insights? What could happen? Okay, let's work through the scenarios. Let's say we're gonna have 2,000 migrants in few months. What we're gonna need? Okay, we're gonna need basic necessities as food, shelters, water, sanitation, PPE equipment. So we were working framework agreements, and we were establishing good contacts with all stakeholders in the community, with the government, with distributors, reliable distributors, and that you had really good experience in the past with, to position you in a sense like we are in humanitarian need, and then to put us in a priority. But working on framework agreements as well can emphasize larger quantities of any good, which provides you with cost saving at the same time. That was our first goal, of course, was to accommodate all those needs, but as well to have responsible expenditure of the money from the side of the donors, and in that way to show our good work. Because like, why we would buy 10 masks when we can buy 1,000 with the same price? So going through the different scenarios and preparing and creating good plan was essential in our case to overcome those problems.
You've said a number of things. I was writing them down as you were speaking, and there's a lot of different topics there that people could prepare with or train for. I imagine no one can know everything, but planning with scenarios seems to be important. Working with suppliers and building a supply chain seems to be important. Dealing with stress in diverse teams and teamwork, that seems to be a major important issue. As we close, as we finish up, why don't you share with us, what are your plans for the future as you move forward in the sector?
Well, at the moment, I'm looking for I'm at the moment in Chicago, Illinois, United States, where I'm planning to stay, and I'm looking for the opportunity to work in disaster response and recovery. But like I have broad experience, and I believe I would fit anywhere on any of the 4 phases of the emergency management, like mitigating, planning, responding, and recovering from disaster. So, but I would like to work more closely on the field with the people. And I mean, I don't mind staying in the office, but disaster recovery and response is something I'm really and truly interested for, and as well to doing research and being and creating my own critical opinions and thinking on certain topics in our field.
Well, Mišo Kenjić, I really want to thank you for your time and sharing your experience as well as congratulations on finishing your studies as well, and wish you all the very best for your future with whatever comes next.
Thank you so much, and good luck with your work. I really liked your podcasts and videos, and there are such a diverse and great amount of people that are working in the field, and I find it really interesting, and I'm following. I'm a fan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mišo. And for those of you that are watching and you're emergency managers, maybe you're from a different profession or maybe from the military, and as most emergency managers you've got that big binder They're full of certifications and trainings and courses that you've done and been on, and maybe that doesn't translate to getting you credit into an academic degree or a master's degree if you want to do a graduate degree. But that's why we were established, uard.org or uard.ac.nz. So do reach out to us so we can give you credit, give you recognition for all of your training experience and also your current role that you have as well. And we are funded by the VA in America for veterans and active service personnel as well. And we look forward to seeing you again on our next video cast.